Isaac talking to Esau, saying that, go get me food, I'm going to give you my blessing. Rebekah springs into action, says, I can't let that happen because Esau's a terrible guy. And for whatever reason, Isaac doesn't realize that, maybe because he's blind, maybe he's not actually blind, he doesn't perceive what's in front of him. I mean, he sees, but he doesn't get it, and Rebekah does, and she's really upset with Isaac, so everything we know about her being kind and whatever now changes a little bit to she's a little more tougher than you thought she was, right? Or trickier than she thought she was. And she says, though, bring me some game. Oh, wait. So, behold, I heard your father speaking to your brother Esau. Now, when Isaac says to Esau, go get me food, that I'll bless you, that's all he says. Go get me food that I'll bless you. But when Rebekah plays back for Jacob what Isaac said to Esau, she changes the words a little bit. And she has two words that are pretty shocking. So let me just say that one more time. When Isaac first says to Esau, go out and go hunt and bring it back and I'm going to bless you, Rebekah overhears that. She then calls in Jacob and says, he's planning to give the blessing to your brother. Here's what you need to do. But she changes the wording a little bit, and it's very clever. Look what she says here, verse 7. Bring me some game that I'll make delicacies and I will eat. Right. Yes, that is what Isaac said to Esau. But then she adds, and I will bless you. Right. He said, I will bless you. But then she adds, before God. You see that? Lifnei Hashem, before God. Isaac never mentioned anything to Esau about God. And now all of a sudden, Rebekah has brought God into the picture. And the rabbis have a field day with it. So if you look now, I brought 4 of them. If you look at 4 different commentaries on Genesis 27, verse 7. Annabelle, would you mind reading the Rashi? Before the Lord.
Before the Lord, by his permission, that he should approve of what I do.
So what Rebekah's saying is, this is going to sound crazy. I'm telling you to go steal your brother's blessing. And she says, all of the guilt lies with me, not you. But don't worry, God said it's okay. That's what Lifnei had. That's why she adds before God. Rashi says, because God told her that's what she was supposed to be doing. Okay, you can take it or leave it. If you don't like it, Rabbi David Kimchi, known as the Radak. Next commentary.
She gratuitously added the words Lifnei Hashem as if they had been Yitzchak's words, which they were not. She intended thereby to convince her son Yaakov that the blessing about to be given to Esau was of an unusual critical importance, one that would reflect a prophetic utterance by Yitzchak.
Okay, and the Chizkuni, 12th century France.
I shall give you the blessing that is approved by the Lord, seeing that after Avram's death, the Lord had conferred his power to bless on his son Yitzchak. Yitzchak explained that this was why he encouraged Esau now to perform deeds to be worthy of such blessings.
Now this is very interesting. Because if you remember, when God says to Abraham, Sarah's going to have a son, don't worry. Abraham's first reaction is, I don't need another son. I already have a son. And I brought the verse. Look at if you look 2 sources down, what Abraham says is Genesis chapter 17, verse 18. And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live by your favor, meaning, I don't need another son. Can you fix the one I got? That's what he says there. He says, I wish, forget this whole new son thing. I mean, that's fine if you want to give me that too, but that's going to take a while. I have a son right here. Could you just get him to stop worshiping idols and be a good guy? And God says, no. Ishmael is never going to work with him. It's got to be Isaac. But now the same thing, according to the Chizkuni, happens to Isaac. Isaac knows that Esau is bad, but he says, why does he need to go hunting and get me game? Because I want to see if he's going to shecht it. You know what shechting is? I want to see if he's going to slaughter the animal the right way, according to the kosher standards. Is he going to bring me a bloody animal, or is he going to bring me an animal that's been salted and the blood's been taken out and it's been done according to the kosher way? Did he? No. He didn't. No. He never comes through. I'm going to show you a little bit of evidence of that in a second. But my point is that I'm sure Isaac knew that Esau was a problem. Just like Abraham knew that Ishmael was a problem. But his reaction was, God, can you fix Esau? He's the older brother. I know he's got problems, but I'm not giving up on him. Can you fix him? And God's answer is, no, he's not fixable. He's Esau. It's got to be Jacob. The same thing that happened with Isaac and Ishmael. It's pretty amazing. Esau and Ishmael turned out to have been a bit of a problem going forward. Thank you. Okay. One more. Yeah, Roger.
Just to close that loop, it's apparent that Abraham couldn't do it by himself. He needed Sarah, and it was apparent that Isaac couldn't do it by himself. He needed Rebekah.
So it looks like the women here perceive better than the men. But that's why I'm Reformed, because I don't believe in that. That's where I draw the line. I like 2 days of Yontif, but that's where I draw the line. All right, one more comment on verse 7. Nachmanides, the Ramban, Annabella.
And I will bless thee before the eternal, before my death. In this entire section, the expression before the eternal is not mentioned except in this place. This is because his mother said to Jacob, the blessing will be before the eternal with the Ruach HaKodesh, and if Esau your brother be blessed with it, it will remain with his children forever, and you will have no standing before him.
Okay, so this is very interesting. What Nachmanides is adding, Nachmanides is a little more Kabbalistic, was that a Holy Spirit took a hold of Rebekah, and this had to be because if Esau would have got the blessing, that ruined everything. And so when it says Lifnei Hashem, when it says before God, that was actually Rebekah having a moment of prophecy where God was telling her. That's according to the Ramban. You can take it or leave it, but that's what he says. Now, if you don't believe me about Ishmael and Abraham and all that, you can read the Or HaChaim on Genesis 17. It's a bit of a long comment. I love the Or HaChaim for a lot of reasons, one of which is that he made Aliyah to Israel in 1748. And if you go to the old city of Jerusalem, you can go to the synagogue, which is in the Jewish quarter. It's still there. He made Aliyah from Morocco and died the next year. But there's a great scene in my next book from that shul. I mean, all right. If I ever finish it, you'll enjoy it hopefully slightly more than you did the last one. Okay. Now I want to go to verse, where is it? 19. There's something very subtle that I'm sure there's no way you could have seen this. But before I do, I want to show you what verse I want to compare it to, and I marked it and lost it, so hang on one second. Oh, yeah. All right, we'll find it in a second. People will say... Okay. If you look in verse 19, you see verse 19? Where it says, Vayomer Yaakov el Aviv, Jacob says to his father, Anochi Esav bechorecha, I'm Esau, your firstborn. Asiti kasher dibarta elai. I've done that which you've asked, which really means I fulfilled all the mitzvahs you wanted fulfilled. I slaughtered the animal in the kosher way, and probably Esau didn't even know what the kosher ways were. And if Esau would have brought the animal, slaughtered kosher, and done everything right, then Isaac would have been really surprised. But from Jacob, he's not as surprised. So already he's probably onto something. But then comes one of the shortest words in the Torah, maybe the shortest word in the Torah, that says a lot. Kum, you know what kum means? Kum means get up. Na. What's na? Please. Kum na. So what does Jacob say to Esau? Please rise. Okay? Like any Reform rabbi knows how to say it. Please rise. Or conservative. The Orthodox, they know. You don't have. They know. Okay. Now, let me just find the word that I need to compare this. This is going to be, okay. Verse 31. So what I want to show you now is the difference between when Jacob says to Isaac, get up and eat, and when Esau says to Jacob, or to Isaac, get up and eat. Both brothers say to their fathers, get up and eat. Okay. Now, remember, Jacob says, kum na. Please get up and eat. Because that's the way that Jacob spoke. He was kind. Esau, in verse 31, says, he too made delicacies, and he brought them to his father, and he said to his father, Father, rise and eat of his son's games so that your soul will bless me, which is a little greedy. The only reason I brought you this food is for the blessing. But, and the Torah uses the word in a future tense, you shall rise, where it says, yakum. You hear how yakum sounds like kum? When you have the ya in front of it, that makes it third person singular future tense. He will rise. But what's missing? Nah. There's no please. So it doesn't seem like that big a deal. But if you're listening to someone, if you're blind, probably you're more sharp at listening. And if you're blind and you hear someone speaking one way who is used to using manners, then that sounds like one person. And then if you hear someone else say the same thing without manners, that sounds like another person. And does the Torah really need to tell us that Jacob said please? Do we really need that word? I mean, are these conversations... Do you think every conversation that ever happened in the Torah was one line? Probably there were more to the conversations, but the Torah doesn't give us the whole conversation. If the Torah gives us the whole conversation, you'd have to carry the Torah around, with a wagon. So they shorten it once in a while. But that means that the words that they keep really are important. And so the fact that Jacob says, please and Esau doesn't is meant to indicate to us something is going on there. And that Isaac could probably tell, one, the food's kosher, and two, he said please. Clear so far? Okay. Now there's a little bit more. So that was something very subtle that I wanted to point out, but something even more powerful, I think. And then we'll get to the exciting conclusion. Okay. But let's go back now to the two conversations. Back to verse 18. Okay. Joe, do you have it? Would you mind reading verse 18?
He went to his father and said, "Father," and he said, "Yes, which of my sons are you?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you have told me. Pray, sit up and eat of my game, that you may give me your innermost blessing." Isaac said to his son, "How did you succeed so quickly, my son?" And he said, "Because the Lord your God granted me good fortune." Isaac said to Jacob, "Come closer, that I may feel you, son, whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob drew close to his father Isaac, who felt him and wondered, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, yet the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, and so he blessed him. Keep going.
Yeah, please.
He asked, "Are you really my son, Esau?" And when he said, "I am," he said, "Serve me and let me eat of my son's game, that I may give you my innermost blessing." So he served him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come close and kiss me, my son." And he went up and kissed him, and he smelled his clothes, and he blessed him, saying, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of the fields the Lord has blessed. May God give you of the dew of the heaven and the fat of the earth, abundance of new grain and wine."
Okay, so remember the difference that what Rebekah added to Jacob that was different than what she heard Isaac say to Esau. Before Lifnei Hashem, before God. In other words, when Isaac was going to bless Esau, from what we see in the Torah, there was never any intention that he was going to use God's name, that he was going to give God's blessing. You see that so far? So now, Rebekah adds to Jacob, it's hard to keep all these names straight. Rebekah says to Jacob, the blessing you're going to get, something with God is involved here. And now if you look at this blessing in verse 27, see, the fragrance of my son is the fragrance of the field, which God has blessed. And may God give you the dew of the heaven. So, it's driving me crazy. Isaac was never going to give Esau a blessing with God in it, from what we know. And here we have the blessing that Rebekah says that Jacob's going to get, that does have God, which is an indication that all along, Isaac knew he was never going to give this particular blessing to Esau. This was the blessing that was always meant for Jacob. Now, before we comment on that, hang on one sec, just bear with me. To compare that, when, let's say Isaac isn't sure if it's Jacob or Esau or not. I mean, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But let's just say he doesn't. Well, by the time Esau does come and clears it up and says, "I'm Esau. What do you mean you gave the blessing to Esau already? I'm Esau." By the time Esau does get his blessing, what happens? So look with me now at, you have 39? It's 39, please. Shall I?
His father Isaac then replied and said to him, "Your dwelling will be blessed with the fat of the land and with the dew of the heavens above. You will live by your sword and you will serve your brother. But when you see Jacob or his descendants sinning and are therefore rightly aggrieved that they were the primary recipients of the blessings, you will be permitted to throw his yoke off your neck."
Right. That's the blessing. No mention of God, which was the blessing he was supposed to get all along. You see, did everyone pick that up? Subtle. Very subtle, but it's powerful. Could you use a microphone?
To go along with what you said, that Isaac presumably knew that the blessing needed to be given to Jacob and not to Esau somehow. The fact that, let's see, when Isaac says, "How did you succeed so quickly, my son?"
Right.
That's and then he.
So what does that mean?
And then after that, he has. He says, "Come closer. Let me." The fact that there was obviously doubt in his mind.
Well, what he's really saying is, first of all, the reason he succeeded so quickly is because Rebekah gave him plenty of warning time. But what he says to Esau is, how could you have succeeded so easily? It's not possible to kosher an animal that quickly. You couldn't have done it the right way.
Nachon.
Stuart, can I pass the mic back to Stuart? And then Richard. Okay. It's the Hall of Presidents back then.
Were you David Broza? I'm going to make a case that I think amplifies this and further says that Isaac knew. So when David Broza was here, he talked about the sheep. And they went in the field and they got a sheep. And they brought a sheep back and just picked it up and brought a sheep back. So a sheep, or in this case a kid, a little baby goat, is an easy thing to get. Isaac, his senses were acute because if his eyesight was bad, he could smell, right? He talks about smelling. Well, I think he could taste too. And as soon as he smelled and tasted that food that was kosher, but it also was a kid, it was a baby goat. He tells Esau, "Bring an arrow, go into the field and hunt game." A kid is not game.
Oh, wow, very nice.
This is an easy thing to get because you go in the field and grab it. David Broza and his buddy grabbed a sheep right out of the field.
Wow.
To hunt game is a big deal, and it takes time, and the food would smell and taste completely different. So, for one more reason, I think Isaac knew.
Yafeh. Very nice. Very nice.
Rashi says that kid tastes like game.
Okay. I don't eat meat. So I don't know. I like fish. Okay.
It is gamey, but it's not deer. It's not.
Sandy and then Eileen.
As a prophet, would Isaac be tremendously annoyed and upset that he, knowing, which I do believe that he knew, because as a parent, the voice you know your children's voice even if you're blind.
Right.
Wouldn't he be annoyed that this deception was being done to him by his son, that he's giving the blessing?
Right. So for those at home, the question is, wouldn't Isaac be annoyed or troubled that Jacob is deceiving him? And all, so here, I think what happened is Jacob said, "Listen, it's Rebekah's fault." And Isaac said, "She's always been annoying. I'm used." No, I don't know. That's Rashi. That's Rashi. No, it's not. I think he's. This is a very interesting question. I don't know if annoyed is the answer. I think disappointed. I think he's disappointed in that he failed with his older son. In the same way that Abraham was disappointed that Ishmael didn't turn out well, I think he was disappointed. And he knew, probably, as a prophet, that it had to be Jacob. But in his heart, he wanted his older son, I think, to take the blessing. And so I think probably more frustrated and disappointed, even at the same time recognizing that Jacob was doing the right thing, which I'm going to explain in the next 2 minutes. Alex? Oh, sorry, Eileen, then Alex.
Yeah, I thought Isaac probably thought, Rebecca, she's a spirited girl. She's just trying to help.
Right.
And he was never deceived, and I'm really happy to realize that today, because this whole story always troubled me, and I never liked what Rebecca did, but
Right.
now he was never deceived, so that's not a problem anymore. So but what I wanted to point out, since we were parsing words a little bit, verse 20, why does Jacob say your God and not my God or our God
Yeah.
in verse 20? Why not our God at least, or my God? Since what are we doing here with a blessing, and I can't say my God?
Oh, I read an article on this earlier today. Rashi doesn't comment on this particular verse. I think, yeah. Do you know something about it?
He doesn't want to include himself because that would be a dead giveaway that he's not Esau. It would be reasonable for Esau to talk about your God and not include himself.
Yeah. There's also, I forget which commentary I read on this week, but it said something like, when he says your God, he's saying that it's prepared according to Torah law, that I prepared the animal according to the way that you want it prepared. Which I'm going to get to that in a second too. Alex, and then Carol, and then Rocky, and then we'll be late for the bar mitzvah.
Okay.
That's okay.
So, with regards to the disappointment in the older sibling, wouldn't going through this whole experience be inflicting the disappointment on the younger Jacob? Like, isn't that an infliction? Because if Isaac's aware of this happening, he knows it's his voice, and yet he's got the furry arms. He knows then he's participating, and he's verbally lying. He's like, "Yes, I'm your son Esau. Give me my blessing."
Yeah.
And then the second part is, where's the transactional component where the birthright was sold? Esau sold it for a pot of stew,
Right.
whatever, 10 pages earlier or 3 pages earlier. And so that doesn't come up in here and do the...
Well, he does.
Do
Esau
folks talk
says,
about it?
Esau says now he's done it to me twice. He's stolen it twice. And what it sort of indicates is that, let me just hang on 1 second. There's so much going on here. Okay. So he does say that. What the rabbis say is that, the fact that he gave the original birthright away for a pot of stew shows that he didn't really care that much about it. Because what the birthright was Torah. And Esau said, I couldn't care less about Torah. I'll give you that. That means nothing to me. But now he comes here and says, well, wait a minute. What do you get with that? And now he does care. Because what you see is right after he gets right after he realizes he didn't get the good blessing, the one that had God in it, then he wants to kill Jacob. And he says, as soon as the days of mourning are over, I'm going to kill him. And that's why Jacob has to run away. So I think what's interesting to me in your question, and I don't really have a good answer to it, I don't really have any answer to it, I'm more interested in answering your question with a question, is why is it that the first time around he couldn't care less about the birthright? He's still worshiping idols. He's married to these non-Jewish women who are worshiping idols, who are around all the time, that drives Rebecca crazy. But now all of a sudden he does care that he got deceived and he loses out on the birthright. That to me is very interesting. I have to look that up. I have to research that. I don't have a good answer for it. Richard?
you always want what you can't get, and you can't get it. And I think that they all have a little more sin in their heart. But they all recognize, because God spoke to Rivka and said, you have two nations in your womb.
Right.
And so she knew what had to be done.
Right.
And she saw an opportunity, and she took her opening. But he said, what we're talking about here, the birthright is total. Okay? And Rabbi Sachs had a great parallel. And they lived with these kids. They knew Esau was not going to pass this Torah on. And they knew that Torah was in Isaac's heart. And in Jacob. And Sachs says, if you have a rembrandt that's been in your family for many generations, and you've got two kids, one who's an art historian, and another one who hasn't any interest in art at all, who are you going to give that rembrandt to?
You're right.
You're going to give the rembrandt to the one that's going to appreciate it and pass it on.
So, you know, the one way, it's a very interesting point that both of you are putting together. The one thing I might say is that, listen, what is Esau's blessing? So Ishmael, at the end of his life, even though he was an idol worshiper and didn't do what Abraham wanted his whole life, at the end of his life, he does repent. He buries Abraham with Isaac, and he admits to Isaac that you should, you know, have more of the honor because you did. Ishmael still has respect for Abraham. And Esau, even though he's a terrible guy and an idol worshiper, still has respect for Isaac. And the fact now that Isaac is the one person that we know in the whole world that he actually does respect is telling him, during my lifetime, you didn't do as good a job as your brother, and because of that, you're now going to have to serve your brother. That set him off, which is very interesting. Okay, a couple more. Rocky, then Joe, and then I prepared some things to discuss. And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, you know, it seems to me like the blessings for both of them are for Esau. When Esau is asking for the blessing, he says, first he took away my birthright. Well, he gave him the birthright. And now he's taken away my blessing. He's given a blessing, and the blessing is pretty much identical, except that Jacob is the master over Esau, and the brothers should serve him. But Isaac goes on to say at the end, and this is where I get a little mixed up, but when you grow restive, you shall break his yoke from your neck. Does that mean when he maybe starts questioning his faith a little bit, that no longer will Jacob hold this over him? I'm not sure what that you break his yoke from your neck means.
The way that the rabbis understand it is that it refers to if the Jews mess up and they turn away from Torah, then you're no longer going to be subservient to them. And Esau, who comes from Esau? Edom. And who comes from Edom? The Romans. And so the rabbis look at this as a prediction, a foreshadowing of the destruction of the Second Temple. But whether you believe that or not, it doesn't matter. The idea is that the other nations are always subservient to the Jews, except when we don't deserve it. And when we sin, then God lowers his protection and Jerusalem can be defeated, and that's what happened both times. That's why we're sitting here and not in Jerusalem, because we've been kicked out of Israel 2 times. So what God's telling Esau is what the kryptonite is of the Jews. If they don't follow the Torah, you'll no longer be subservient to them. And that's how Rashi understands it.
Rocky, I thought, was on the right path there. The only difference is they're both blessing. Just 2 different paths.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. We're out of time, but let's say it this way. When first of all, we didn't answer why 10 camels. Remember the 10 camels? Okay, so let's get to an answer for the 10 camels. But before we do that, let's say this. When the angels come to Sodom to save Lot, they have a meal together. And the Torah tells us what they eat. Presumably, people had meals every day. Well, maybe not Yom Kippur, but people had meals most of the days. But the Torah never tells us, oh, by the way, the Jews, here's what they ate today. Although for Exodus, you don't have to worry about that. They ate manna every single day. You get it? Okay. But in Genesis, if they tell us about a meal, there must be for a reason. And what do they eat? They eat matzah. And Rashi says there, the reason that Lot was eating matzah was because it was Pesach. So you say, well, what are you talking about? It's Pesach. Moses isn't going to be born for another 500 years. How can it be Pesach? Because the mitzvah of Pesach is that on the 15th day of the month of Nisan, you eat matzah. That's one of the 613 mitzvahs. That day was the 15th of Nisan. So that's the day where you have to eat matzah. So we eat matzah because of what happened. They had to eat matzah because of what was going to happen. The point is that the rabbis argue that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, as prophets who lived before the giving of the Torah, knew the mitzvahs of the Torah. They were prophets and God told them the mitzvahs. Abraham kept kosher. Right? They knew what the mitzvahs were. Clear so far? Okay, so look on the back of the sheet. Leviticus 19:14. Before you read it. Rebekah seems deceptive when she sends Jacob in front of Isaac. But maybe she's not deceptive. She's just following the mitzvahs. Maybe she's just doing what Jews are commanded to do and she had no choice. So why would I say that? Because just like Lot knew that day was Nisan, and he probably learned from Abraham at some point the mitzvahs, and he learned that that's the day that you're supposed to eat matzah, and so he ate matzah even though the Torah hadn't been given yet. Whenever one of the matriarchs or patriarchs had a chance to do the mitzvahs, they did the mitzvahs. So Leviticus 19:14 says, "You shall not insult the deaf, but for our purposes, or place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am the Lord." So there's a mitzvah to remove a stumbling block before the blind person. Now, who's someone who's constantly vigilant about removing stumbling blocks before blind people? People who are married to blind people. Her husband's blind. And so she probably spent her whole day saying, Now, I could show you dozens and dozens and dozens of rabbinic interpretations that tell you that removing the stumbling block before the blind person doesn't actually mean taking things out of the way of the blind person. It means preventing something from harming anyone, or preventing someone from being misguided, or if someone tries to sell you a bridge, for $1 million and you're about to, fork it over and think you own the Golden Gate Bridge, someone should come and say, "I wouldn't make that deal." Right? That's lifnei iver lo titen machshol. Before the blind person, you shouldn't place a stumbling block. But listen, lifnei iver, before a blind person, lo titen, you shall not put mechshol. Mechshol means a stumbling block, but it comes from the Hebrew word kishalon. Kishalon means failure. To fail, a failure. So all Rebekah's doing by having Jacob come for the blessing instead of Esau is fulfilling a mitzvah in the Torah that says you're not allowed to permit a blind person to fail if you can prevent it. And notice that she says, Lifnei Hashem, before God, because that mitzvah is something that's commanded by God, and she actually says that. So why do we need this mitzvah in Leviticus? There's plenty of mitzvahs in the Torah where we hear the mitzvah and it doesn't say at the end of the verse, I am Hashem. But this mitzvah in particular, if you read it in Leviticus, comes at the end to say, I am Hashem, to connect it to what Rebekah did. To teach you that Rebekah, whenever she had a chance to do a mitzvah, she did a mitzvah. That's what Lifnei Hashem means. And that's why everywhere in the blessing to Jacob, you see God, blessed by God, blessed by God, blessed by God. And the blessing with Esau, God's not mentioned even one time. Okay, now, and then I brought you some Radak if you wanted to read a little bit more on that. But before, just to conclude, why would we think, again, that Rebekah cares so much about the mitzvahs? Because when Eliezer came to greet her, the only other story we know about her is the 10 camels. Ever heard of the 10 commandments? Those 10 camels to her meant, remember, Rebekah's a prophet. When she saw those 10 camels, you think she said, you know what? Why not take a chance and move to a different country and marry someone I've never met? What she said was, this guy comes to represent Torah. This guy comes to represent the 10 commandments. And if I have a chance to go and live according to the mitzvahs, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So who's Rebekah? Rebekah is the one who binds. Remember we said at the beginning, Rebekah means to connect. She's the one who connects the first generation, Abraham and Sarah, the idea that Abraham brought into the world that there's one God, with Jacob, whose sons are going to be the children of Israel who accept the Torah, who say, we're willing to live according to the mitzvahs. So one story looks like she's really kind, and one story looks like she's really deceptive, but both stories don't mean either of that. Both stories mean that she's the one who connects the Jewish people to observance of mitzvah. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Yeah. I don't know. He hasn't been feeling well. And I called her and I said, what is it? She didn't tell me, but so all she told me is it's something that's serious, but he's going to recover from it. Oh, great.
Cold in here today.